The fluorescent lights hummed softly in the empty laboratory as Dr. Marcus Chen rubbed his tired eyes. The wall clock showed 11:43 p.m., but he couldn't bring himself to leave yet. His latest tests on memory enhancement were showing promising results, and he felt close to a breakthrough. The computer screen in front of him displayed complex brain wave patterns from his latest experiment. Something was different this time. The neural pathways were reorganizing themselves in ways he had never seen before. He reached for his coffee mug, only to find it empty. "You still work too hard, Marcus." The quiet voice made him jump. He spun his chair around to face a woman standing in the doorway. The laboratory's security system should have prevented any unauthorized entry, yet there she was. She wore a simple white dress that seemed to shimmer slightly under the harsh lighting. "I'm sorry, but this is a restricted area," Marcus said, reaching slowly for the security alarm button under his desk. "How did you get in here?" The woman took a step forward, and Marcus noticed something odd about her movement. It was too smooth, almost as if she was floating. Her dark eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You've forgotten me, human," she said, her voice carrying a hint of sadness. But I suppose that was inevitable. Marcus's hand stopped inches from the alarm button. There was something about her voice, something familiar that he couldn't quite place. "I've never met you before," he said, but even as the words left his mouth, a strange doubt crept into his mind. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Tell me, Marcus, how is Project Mnemosine progressing? Have you discovered why test subject 23 showed quantum entanglement in their hippocampus?" Marcus felt his blood run cold. Project Mnemosine was classified at the highest level. Even his research assistant, HFY, only had partial access to that data. He stood up slowly, his scientific curiosity overtaking his caution. "Who are you? How do you know about that?" "I know because I was there when you first observed it." She moved to one of his whiteboards, covered in complex equations. Her finger traced over a particular formula. "This equation, you wrote it down on February 12th at 3:47 a.m. You were drinking green tea instead of coffee that night because your stomach was bothering you." Marcus felt a headache building behind his eyes. He remembered writing that equation. It had been a major breakthrough in his research. But he didn't remember anyone else being there. He was always alone during his late-night sessions, wasn't he? "That's impossible," he muttered, but even as he spoke, strange fragments began floating through his mind. A conversation he couldn't quite remember, a laugh that seemed familiar yet foreign, a flash of that same white dress reflected in his computer screen. "Your mind is fighting to remember," she said softly, "but the barriers are still too strong. Tell me, in your memory enhancement research, have you ever wondered why humans forget in the first place? Why your species evolved with such an imperfect memory system?" Marcus found himself sinking back into his chair. His head was pounding now, and the fluorescent lights seemed to be getting brighter, their hum growing louder. "How do you know these things?" She approached his desk, and he noticed that the lights flickered slightly with each step she took. "Because, Marcus, I am the reason you started this research in the first place. The answers you're looking for aren't in your computers or your equations." She placed a hand on his desk, and he watched in stunned silence as her fingers seemed to phase slightly through the solid surface. "They're in the memories you were made to forget." The pounding in Marcus's head intensified, and suddenly he saw a flash of something. A vast space filled with crystalline structures, equations floating in three-dimensional space, and this woman, teaching him things that his mind couldn't quite grasp. Then it was gone, leaving him gasping and confused in his laboratory chair, staring at a stranger who seemed to know everything about him. A stranger he was becoming less and less sure he had never met before. Marcus spent the next morning searching through his research files like a man possessed. The mysterious woman's visit had left him shaken, and sleep had eluded him entirely. His office was a mess of scattered papers and empty coffee cups as he dug through years of research data. "ARIA, display all my research logs from the past year." he commanded his AI assistant. The holographic screen flickered to life in front of him. Certainly, Dr. Chen, AI's smooth voice responded. However, I should note that there appear to be some inconsistencies in the data. Marcus leaned forward. What kind of inconsistencies? There is a gap in your research logs. All data between March 15th and June 22nd is missing. Additionally, there are no security camera recordings from your lab during those dates. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. 3 months of missing data. That was impossible. He remembered working during those months. He remembered. What exactly did he remember? That can't be right, he muttered, rubbing his temples. Check again. I have already performed 3 separate checks, Dr. Chen. The gap remains consistent. Would you like me to run a system diagnostic? Before Marcus could respond, a familiar voice spoke from behind him. You won't find those records, Marcus. They were never stored in digital form. He spun around. The woman from last night stood there, but in the morning light, he could see something he had missed before. Her skin had a subtle, iridescent quality, like oil on water. Who are you? He demanded. Really? My name is Lyra, she said, walking toward his desk. The morning sunlight seemed to bend around her slightly. I am not from your world. My people exist in what you might call quantum superposition with your universe. Marcus laughed, but it was a nervous sound. That's impossible. You're saying you're from another dimension. Not exactly. Lyra picked up one of his research papers, her fingers passing halfway through it before becoming solid enough to hold it. We exist in all dimensions simultaneously. Your people are only beginning to understand quantum mechanics, but you've already grasped the concept that something can exist in multiple states at once. Marcus watched as she set the paper down. His scientific mind was racing with questions, but one pressed forward more urgently than the others. Why can't I remember you? Because the human mind isn't designed to process multidimensional existence, she explained. When we first made contact with you, the experience nearly destroyed your consciousness. We had to edit those memories for your own protection. There are more of you. Lyra nodded. Many more. And you, Marcus, were chosen as our ambassador. The breakthrough in your research, it wasn't just brilliant science. It was inspired by our technology. Marcus felt his head spinning. He looked at his equations on the whiteboard, seeing them in a new light. The quantum entanglement in the test subject's hippocampus is a side effect of human consciousness beginning to bridge the gap between our worlds. Lyra finished. But something has gone wrong. Your continued research is pushing human consciousness toward a dangerous threshold. The barrier between our realities is wearing thin. As if to demonstrate her point, the air around her shimmered, and for a brief moment, Marcus saw through her, not to the wall behind her, but to somewhere else entirely, a place filled with crystalline structures and impossible geometries. Dr. Chen, Aria's voice interrupted. I'm detecting unusual quantum fluctuations in the room. Should I initiate emergency protocols? No, Aria, Marcus said quietly, his eyes fixed on Lyra. Record everything. We're about to rewrite our understanding of consciousness itself. Lyra's expression turned grave. We don't have much time, Marcus. Others are coming, ones who don't share my belief that humanity can handle this knowledge. You need to remember what we taught you. Everything depends on it. Marcus sat in his dimly lit office, staring at the small crystal Lyra had given him. It pulsed with a faint blue light that seemed to move like waves under its surface. His head ached with fragments of memories trying to break through. Faces, voices, and strange symbols that didn't make sense. Try again, Lyra said softly. She stood by the window, her form shifting slightly as clouds passed over the sun. Focus on the crystal's center. Your memories are there, just behind the wall your mind built to protect itself. Marcus held the crystal tighter and closed his eyes. At first, there was nothing but darkness. Then, like a movie playing in reverse, images began flooding his mind. He saw himself in a vast chamber made of living crystal. Beams of pure light moved around him, teaching him things about consciousness that no human had ever known. He watched his own hands manipulate quantum fields, saw himself writing equations that would later become his groundbreaking research. "I remember," he whispered, opening his eyes. "They were wet with tears. You taught me everything. My memory enhancement technique. It wasn't my discovery at all." "No," Lyra said, moving closer. "But you did something with it that none of us expected. Something uniquely human." Before Marcus could ask what she meant, the crystal in his hand pulsed brightly. New memories surfaced, these ones less pleasant. He saw other quantum beings arguing, their forms flickering with agitation. They were afraid of something. Of humans. "Your species learns too quickly," Lyra explained, seeing the recognition in his face. "What took us millennia to discover, you grasp in decades." "Some of my people saw this as a threat. They wanted to stop the experiments." "But you didn't," Marcus said, the memories becoming clearer. "You fought for us. Said we had potential." Lyra nodded. "Human consciousness is different from ours. We exist in quantum certainty, all possibilities at once. But humans," she paused, searching for the right words. "Humans choose. You collapse quantum possibilities into reality just by observing them. It's a power we don't fully understand." Marcus stood up, pacing his office as more memories settled into place. The memory enhancement technique, it was supposed to help humans process quantum reality without burning out. But something went wrong, didn't it? Yes, Lyra's form flickered with what might have been anxiety. The technique worked too well. Instead of just letting humans observe quantum reality, it began to change it. Every human subject we tested showed the same result. They started creating new quantum possibilities just by thinking about them. Marcus stopped pacing. On his desk, his research papers seemed to mock him with their incompleteness. "That's why you erased our memories. Not to protect us, but to slow us down." "To protect both our species," Lyra corrected. "Uncontrolled quantum manipulation could collapse both our realities. But now," she gestured to his computer, where his latest research data scrolled endlessly. "Now you're about to make the same breakthrough again, but without the safeguards we put in place." Marcus felt cold sweat on his forehead. His life's work, his mission to enhance human memory, could destroy everything. "How many others?" he asked. "How many humans did you work with?" "Dozens, all brilliant scientists like yourself, all working on similar research around the world. And all of them are about to remember, just like you have." Lyra's form solidified, becoming almost fully human. "That's why the others are coming. They think the only way to save our reality is to stop all of you permanently." The crystal in Marcus's hand grew warm, pulsing with urgent light. In its depths, he could see other scientists in other labs, all on the verge of the same devastating breakthrough. The race to save both their worlds had begun. The door to Marcus's lab burst open, making both him and Lyra turn sharply. A woman with graying hair and fierce eyes strode in, followed by two younger scientists. Marcus recognized her immediately. Dr. Sarah Hammond, his former research partner who had mysteriously quit their project 2 years ago. "Get away from him, Lyra," Sarah said, her voice hard. She held what looked like a modified EEG device in her hands. It hummed with a strange energy that made Lyra's form waver. "Sarah." Marcus stepped forward, confused. "What are you doing here? How do you know Lyra?" "Because some of us never forgot, Marcus." Sarah kept the device pointed at Lyra. "Some of us found a way to keep our memories intact. We've been watching, waiting, and preparing for when they would try to interfere again." Lyra's form stabilized, but she made no aggressive moves. Dr. Hammond was one of the few whose mind could handle quantum awareness without protection. We couldn't erase her memories even if we wanted to. "Don't pretend you're on our side," Sarah snapped. "I remember everything, including how your people voted to have us all eliminated when they realized they couldn't control us." Marcus's head spun as he looked between them. Sarah, what are you talking about? Lyra's been helping me remember. Helping you remember what they want you to remember, one of the younger scientists said. He introduced himself as Dr. James Chen, no relation. The quantum beings aren't united, Marcus. Some want to help humanity evolve. Others want to keep us as pets, and the rest want us gone. The other scientist, Dr. Maya Patil, moved to Sarah's computer station and began typing rapidly. We've been tracking quantum fluctuations across research facilities worldwide. In the past 24 hours, there's been a massive spike in activity. They're making their move. Lyra's form flickered again, but this time Marcus saw what looked like worry cross her features. They're coming sooner than I expected. The council must have voted. The council? Marcus asked. The ruling body of her people, Sarah explained, her eyes never leaving Lyra. Let me guess, they voted to terminate the Human Consciousness Project. Lyra nodded slowly. But I'm not here to help them. Why do you think I came to warn Marcus? To manipulate him, like you did before, Sarah said bitterly. I watched you do it 2 years ago. You made him think he was making breakthroughs on his own, when really you were just feeding him bits of your technology. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. Is this true? Not entirely, Lyra said, turning to face him. Yes, we guided your research, but not to manipulate you. We were trying to prepare humanity for what's coming. The quantum realm and human realm are merging whether we like it or not. We needed you to be ready. Suddenly, all the computers in the lab began to flicker. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. Multiple quantum breaches detected. They're not just coming here. They're appearing at every major research facility globally. We're out of time, Lyra said urgently. Marcus, you have to choose now. The resistance has been fighting shadows for years, but they don't understand the full picture. Yes, some of my people want to stop humanity's evolution, but others want to help you survive what's coming. Sarah raised her quantum device higher. Don't listen to her, Marcus. Join us. We've been preparing for this fight for years. We can protect you. Marcus looked between them. Sarah, his old friend and partner, battle-hardened and certain of her cause, and Lyra, the mysterious being who had opened his mind to impossible things. In the background, the computers continued to flash warnings of approaching quantum entities. The time for doubt was over. He had to make a choice that would affect not just his future, but the future of both their species. Marcus looked at the quantum device in Sarah's hands, then at Lyra's shifting form, and made his decision. He stepped between them. Both of you, stop, he said firmly. Something doesn't add up here. Sarah, lower your device. And Lyra, show us what you really look like. Sarah hesitated but slowly lowered her weapon. Lyra's form shimmered and changed, becoming less human-like. Her body now looked like flowing crystal, with patterns of light moving beneath her surface. While you two were arguing, Marcus continued, I was watching the quantum readings on my monitors, and I noticed something strange. He walked to his computer and pointed to the complex wave patterns on the screen. Look at how the quantum fields react around humans versus around Lyra. Maya moved closer to the screen, her eyes widening. The patterns, they're completely different. Exactly, Marcus said. Lyra's people exist in all quantum states at once. Their consciousness spreads across all possibilities. But look at what human brains do to quantum fields. The screen showed chaotic but organized patterns around human subjects, where Lyra's quantum signature was smooth and uniform. Human patterns showed gaps and jumps. Our limited consciousness, Marcus explained, getting excited. It's not a weakness at all. Those gaps in our quantum fields, they're like natural quantum processors. We don't just observe quantum reality. We actively shape it through these gaps. Dr. James Chen leaned forward, studying the patterns. Are you saying our imperfect perception of quantum reality is actually an advantage? More than that, Marcus said. Lyra, your people see everything at once, right? All possibilities, all the time. Lyra's crystalline form pulsed with light as she spoke. Yes, we exist in all states simultaneously. It is how we perceive reality. But that's exactly why you need us, Marcus said, his voice growing more confident. You can see all possibilities, but you can't choose between them. You can't collapse quantum states into single realities. But humans, that's what we do naturally. Sarah's expression changed from suspicion to understanding. The gaps in our quantum perception, they're not bugs in our consciousness. They're features. They're quantum decision engines, Marcus said. Every time we observe something, make a choice, or even think about possibilities, we're actually processing quantum information in a way Lyra's people can't. Maya's fingers flew across her keyboard, running new analyses. He's right. Look at these readings. Human consciousness doesn't just observe quantum states, it actively sorts through them, choosing which possibilities become reality. Lyra's form brightened. This is what I've been trying to tell the Council. We discovered that human consciousness had this ability, but we didn't understand how it worked. We thought we were teaching you, but really, you were discovering what we could already do naturally, Marcus finished. That's why some of your people are afraid. We don't just perceive quantum reality. We can change it just by thinking. Sarah finally lowered her quantum device completely. So when they erased our memories, they were trying to suppress an ability we already had, Marcus said. But it's like trying to stop water from flowing downhill. Our minds are naturally quantum processors, working in ways that even Lyra's advanced civilization hasn't mastered. The lab fell silent as everyone processed this revelation. Then the computers started beeping again. More quantum breaches were opening worldwide. They're still coming, Maya warned, checking the readings. And now we know why they're really afraid of us. Marcus looked at the crystal Lyra had given him earlier, seeing it in a new light. Then it's time to show them what human consciousness can really do. Sarah, gather your resistance. Lyra, we'll need your help. We're not going to run or fight. We're going to show your people why humanity's quantum consciousness is the bridge both our species need. The next 12 hours in the lab were intense. Marcus and Sarah worked side by side at his research station, surrounded by humming equipment. Maya and James coordinated with resistance cells worldwide through encrypted channels. Lyra moved between them, her crystalline form glowing brighter whenever she shared crucial information. The memory enhancement technique needs to be reversed, Marcus said, drawing quick diagrams on the whiteboard. Instead of trying to make human minds work like quantum beings, we need to enhance what makes us unique. Sarah nodded, typing rapidly on her computer. Those gaps in our quantum perception, what if we could control them? Use them consciously instead of just randomly. Exactly, Marcus said. He held up the crystal Lyra had given him. This isn't just a memory storage device. It's a quantum tuning fork. It resonates with consciousness itself. Lyra floated closer, her light patterns shifting excitedly. Your original research tried to fill in the gaps in human consciousness. But now we're going to teach people how to use those gaps, Marcus finished. He connected the crystal to his modified EEG machine. Maya, are the other research stations ready? Maya looked up from her screens. 23 facilities worldwide, all connected and waiting. The resistance networks are in place. James rushed in from the adjacent lab. Quantum breaches are getting bigger. We got maybe an hour before they're fully open. Marcus took a deep breath and put on the EEG headset. Sarah, you'll monitor my brainwaves. Lyra, guide me through the quantum fields. Everyone else, get ready to broadcast what we discover to all stations. Sarah squeezed his hand briefly. Be careful. Nobody's ever tried to consciously control their quantum gaps before. Marcus closed his eyes as Sarah started the machine. The crystal hummed, and suddenly he could see them, the gaps in his quantum perception. But they weren't empty spaces like he'd thought. They were more like doors, places where his consciousness could reach out and touch the quantum field directly. It's working, Lyra said. her voice full of wonder. Your mind is making conscious quantum decisions instead of random ones. On the monitors, Marcus's brainwaves showed patterns never seen before. The gaps in his quantum field weren't closing. They were organizing themselves, becoming structured. Broadcasting to all stations, Maya announced, "Everyone's receiving the pattern. The resistance members are starting their attempts." Through his quantum-enhanced awareness, Marcus could feel others joining him. Dozens, then hundreds of humans worldwide, all learning to use their natural quantum processing ability. Each mind found its own way to shape reality, contributing to a growing network of conscious quantum observers. Multiple quantum signatures appearing, James reported excitedly. But they're stable. The human consciousness network is actually stabilizing the quantum breaches. Sarah watched the readings in amazement. It's like each human mind is a quantum anchor point, holding reality steady while still allowing for multiple possibilities. We're not fighting the quantum nature of the universe. We're helping to organize it. Lyra's form pulsed with bright colors. This is beyond anything my people thought possible. Human consciousness isn't just observing quantum reality anymore. It's helping to structure it. You're becoming living bridges between possibilities. Marcus opened his eyes, maintaining his new awareness. The lab looked different now. He could see layers of quantum possibility around everything. And most importantly, he could choose which layers to focus on. "Send this message to all stations," he said, his voice steady. "Don't try to block out quantum reality. Don't try to see everything at once like Lyra's people do. Instead, embrace the gaps in your perception. They're tools, windows that let you peek through the quantum fog and choose which possibilities to make real." The computers showed more and more humans succeeding worldwide. Each success made the network stronger, more stable. They weren't just defending against quantum beings anymore. They were becoming something new, something that could exist in both realities at once. Humanity was awakening to its true potential, one conscious quantum choice at a time. The air in the lab crackled with energy as the quantum breaches reached their peak. Through the windows, the sky had taken on a strange, shimmering quality, like oil on water. Marcus and his team watched as multiple realities began bleeding into each other. "They're here," Lyra announced, her crystalline form vibrating with tension. The air split open, and several beings like her emerged. But where her light was warm and fluid, theirs was sharp and cold. The leader of the quantum beings spoke, its voice echoing strangely in the air. "This experiment ends now. Human consciousness must be contained before it destroys the fabric of reality itself." Marcus stepped forward, still wearing his modified EEG headset. "You're too late. Look around you. Humanity is already changing." On the monitors behind him, readings showed thousands of humans worldwide now actively using their quantum perception. Each one was learning to navigate through quantum possibilities, creating stable points in reality. The hostile quantum beings launched their attack. Waves of pure quantum energy swept through the lab, trying to overwhelm human consciousness and force it to collapse. Maya cried out as her computer station sparked and smoked. But something unexpected happened. "Look at the readings," Sarah shouted excitedly. "Every attack is making the human quantum network stronger." She was right. Each wave of quantum energy meant to destroy human consciousness was instead being absorbed, processed through those unique gaps in human perception. Like a muscle growing stronger through exercise, human minds were adapting to handle more and more quantum information. "Impossible," the leader of the quantum beings said. "Their consciousness should be collapsing under this pressure." "You still don't understand what makes us different," Marcus explained, standing his ground as reality wavered around them. "We don't try to process everything at once like you do. We filter, we choose, we adapt. Every attack just teaches us more about how to use our abilities." James ran in from the monitoring station. "Marcus, you need to see this. The quantum network. It's not just defending anymore. It's growing." On the main screen, they could see it happening. Human consciousness wasn't just resisting the attacks, it was learning from them. Each person connected to the network was discovering new ways to manipulate quantum reality. Some were learning to create stable paths between possibilities. Others found ways to merge different quantum states smoothly. "Stop this immediately," the quantum leader demanded, its form flickering with what might have been fear. It launched another, stronger attack. Marcus felt the pressure build in his mind, but instead of fighting it, he let it flow through the gaps in his consciousness. Around the world, other humans did the same. The attack dispersed, transformed by thousands of human minds into pure potential. "That's why you're really afraid," Lyra said to her people. "Not because humans might destroy reality, but because they can reshape it in ways we never imagined." Sarah's quantum detection device was beeping rapidly. "The network is stabilizing all quantum fluctuations worldwide. We're not just processing quantum reality anymore. We're helping to organize it." The hostile quantum beings tried one final, massive assault. They poured all their energy into a wave that should have shattered human consciousness completely. Instead, the wave passed through the human quantum network and emerged transformed. Where there had been chaos, now there was harmony. Where multiple realities had been crashing together, now they flowed smoothly, guided by human consciousness acting as natural quantum processors. Marcus looked at the defeated quantum beings with sympathy. "We don't want to fight you. We don't want to replace you. What we want is to help build something new. A bridge between our ways of experiencing reality." The quantum beings' light dimmed as they realized the truth. Humanity hadn't just survived their attack. It had evolved beyond it. In the aftermath of the failed attack, Marcus's lab had become a meeting point between two worlds. The hostile quantum beings had retreated, but they left behind observers to watch what happened next. Lyra stood with Marcus and his team as they made an incredible discovery. "Look at this," Maya said, pointing to her restored computer screen. "Every time we thought we were losing memories of quantum events, our minds were actually processing them differently." Marcus nodded, studying the patterns. "Our brains weren't blocking out quantum reality. They were packaging it into something we could understand, like compressing a huge file into a smaller one." The quantum observers drifted closer, their light patterns showing curiosity instead of fear now. One of them spoke, its voice gentler than before. "We thought your forgetting was a weakness, a sign that human consciousness couldn't handle quantum reality. But it's actually your greatest strength," Lyra added. "You forget so you can remember in new ways. You let go of fixed memories so your minds stay flexible enough to process quantum information without being overwhelmed." Sarah walked over with a stack of brain scans. "These are from the resistance members who kept their memories. Look at how their minds adapted." She spread the scans out on the table. Instead of fighting to hold onto every quantum memory, their brains learned to store the essence of the experience. James, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly spoke up. "It's like learning to ride a bike. You don't remember every single time you practiced. You remember the important parts that let you do it again." The quantum observer's light pulsed with understanding. "Your consciousness evolved to be quantum processors without losing your individual perspectives," one said. "While we see all possibilities at once, you can move between them, choosing which ones to focus on." Marcus picked up the crystal that had started everything. "That's why the memory enhancement technique was wrong. We were trying to make human minds store everything, when we should have been learning to use our natural ability to filter and choose." "The council must know about this," one of the observers said. "This changes everything we thought about consciousness evolution." Lyra moved to the center of the room, her form glowing brightly. "It's more than that. Look at what's happening now that humans are using their quantum processing naturally." On the global monitoring screens, the quantum network had stabilized into something beautiful. Instead of chaos where realities met, there were now smooth transitions. Human consciousness was acting like a natural filtering system, helping to organize quantum space. "We're not just observers anymore," Sarah said with wonder. "We're facilitators. Our minds help smooth out the rough edges between quantum possibilities. That's why we needed each other all along, Marcus realized. Your people see all possibilities, which would overwhelm most minds. But humans, we instinctively know how to sort through possibilities and find the paths between them. The quantum observers conferred among themselves, their lights blending together. Finally, they turned to Marcus. We will report to the Council that human consciousness is not a threat to quantum reality. Instead, it appears to be a crucial part of its evolution. Maya's computer beeped with new data. Look at this. Wherever human quantum processors are active, the barriers between realities are becoming more stable, not less. We're actually helping to maintain the separation where needed and create safe bridges where possible. Marcus smiled as he watched the patterns flow across the screen. That's the real solution, isn't it? Not trying to force one type of consciousness to work like the other, but letting each do what it does best. Sarah put her hand on his shoulder. So what do we do now? Now, Marcus said, looking at both his human colleagues and the quantum beings, we learn from each other. Not by trying to change who we are, but by understanding why we're different and how those differences make both our species stronger. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the atrium of the newly established Quantum Consciousness Institute. The massive building seamlessly blended human and quantum architecture. Solid walls flowed into crystalline structures that shifted and changed like living things. Scientists from both species worked side by side, studying the growing connection between their worlds. Still getting used to the view? Sarah asked, joining him by the window. Outside, the sky occasionally shimmered with quantum effects, but now they were gentle and controlled, like auroras dancing in the night. Sometimes I can't believe how far we've come, Marcus replied. He watched as a group of new human students followed a quantum being instructor, learning to consciously use their natural quantum processing abilities. Maya rushed up to them, tablet in hand. The latest results are amazing. The human quantum network now spans every continent. Over 10,000 people have learned to use their quantum perception actively. And more importantly, James added, joining the group, no more headaches or memory loss. Everyone's learning at their own pace, using their minds the way they were meant to. Lyra appeared beside them, her crystalline form now a familiar and welcome sight. The Council's latest report confirms it. Human consciousness has become an essential part of quantum space maintenance. Your natural ability to filter and process quantum information has stabilized regions that were chaotic for millennia. Marcus smiled as he remembered that first night when Lyra had appeared in his lab. You said I'd forgotten you. But really, my mind was just processing the memory differently, wasn't it? Yes, Lyra's light pulsed warmly. Your consciousness knew exactly what to do with quantum memories. Store their essence rather than every detail. That's why you felt like you knew me even when you couldn't remember meeting me. Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing the global quantum network. Bright points of light marked where human quantum processors were active, each one helping to maintain the delicate balance between realities. Look here, she pointed to a particular pattern. When humans encounter new quantum information now, they don't try to remember everything. Instead, they naturally sort through possibilities and store what's important. It's like having millions of quantum librarians, each helping to organize the infinite books of reality. A group of quantum beings floated past, their forms showing the new patterns they had learned from humans, more focused, more directed, but still maintaining their natural ability to exist in multiple states. We've learned from each other, one of them said, pausing briefly. Our people now understand that seeing all possibilities isn't enough. Sometimes you need to choose between them, to find the paths that matter most. Marcus walked to his office, a space that existed simultaneously in normal reality and quantum space. On his desk, the crystal that had started everything now sat in a special display. But it was no longer just a memory storage device. It had become a symbol of what both species could achieve together. Dr. Chen, his new assistant, called from the doorway. The first group of quantum human hybrid projects is ready for review. Thank you, he said, picking up his tablet. On the screen, he could see the incredible achievements their collaboration had produced. Stable quantum computers that used human-inspired processing methods, new medical treatments that worked across multiple quantum states, and even the first experiments in conscious reality shaping. As he prepared for another day of discovery, Marcus thought about how far they'd come from that moment when a mysterious woman told him he'd forgotten her. They had transformed what seemed like a limitation, human forgetfulness, into their greatest strength. The ability to filter, to choose, to process reality in uniquely human ways had turned out to be exactly what the quantum universe needed. "Ready for the next adventure?" Lyra asked, appearing in his doorway. Marcus looked at the quantum effects dancing across his office walls, at the humans and quantum beings working together in the halls, and at the future they were building together. "Always," he replied. "After all, there are infinite possibilities waiting to be explored."